So I'm going to try and make a start whilst also keeping an eye on the waiting room. So forgive me if I'm a bit eyes all over the place while we get started. And thank you for being here today. I appreciate that an hour and a half of your precious time can be a challenging thing to give up. So my intention is to wedge as much value into this session as I can possibly wedge. And the focus really is on how you can create a career breakthrough for yourself soon, in the early part of next year, perhaps, depending on the type of organization you're in, the type of role that you're in. So what I'm going to share with you is 3 tips or secrets, one of which specifically relates to mindset, one specifically relates to a strategy you can think in terms of, and one of which is a skill for you to develop. And those 3 things, when put together, unlock opportunity for people in business. And some of you who know me know that I have a particular passion for helping capable and integrity-driven women break through the glass ceiling and get to the top of business. Because my belief is that if more good women are at the top of business, business will be a better place. So that's a big part of the work I do. It would be really lovely, actually. I know that some of you have screens off. It would be really lovely if you are able to, if you would be willing to put your camera on, so that we have a sense of being a group of people in a room. Anuradha, it's a lovely shot of your keyboard that you've just given us there. You might need to lift your screen up.
Sorry, I'll do that, yeah.
That's okay. And it would also be really nice to get a sense of the mix of people that we've got in the room. So there are some of you that I know I have worked with before, but for the benefit of everyone, perhaps we can just do a quick show of hands. If you are someone that I've worked with, if we've worked together before, can you just do a kind of hand raise, digital or physical hand raise? Hey, Arlene, you're doing well. No babies crawling in the background just at the moment. And what about if our paths have crossed, but we haven't actually worked together before? There's a few people that probably fit into that bracket. Hey, Karina. And is there anyone that's completely new to me here? We haven't really spoken before. Maria, Anuradha. Well, in particular, thank you guys for having the kind of courage and willingness to give up an hour and a half of your time today. As I say, my commitment is to make it count. And also, because you guys are here live, I am going to do names out of a hat later for a disc profiling session for someone that is here today, and that will come with a consultation. So we will go into that profile, understand what it means for you in terms of how you're communicating, how you're showing up professionally, and that's a high value package. So that's £500 worth. And I'll be doing names out of a hat later for those of you that are here in person. So thank you for being here. I want to just give you, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I just want to give you a bit of background to myself so that you understand how and where the stuff I'm going to share with you has been put together, where it comes from. So I'm a really regular kind of a gal. I've got currently 3 kids, 3 goats, and 11 chickens, and I live in rural Ireland. But that is not how it always was. Before I opted out of corporate life, I had a big leadership career. I was running a private university. I grew it from 6 million to 36 million in revenues, and from 60 staff to over 300 staff before I left. And I was very much myself throughout that process. And in the early part of my career, I struggled to feel valued, to be heard, and to gain the responsibility and authority that I felt I needed to be able to add the value I knew I could add. I'm a bright, capable person. I wanted to make my way through that corporate world, and I often felt like something wasn't connecting, and I wasn't being seen, and I wasn't being recognized. And somewhere along the line, probably in part because of a lot of my training. So I'm these days a qualified psychologist. Back in the day, I was a trained coach and NLP practitioner. And the skill set that gave me, I think, unlocked for me a shift in behaviors and a shift in approach, some of which I'm going to share with you today, that enabled me to start gaining these big, sorry, I'm looking at the waiting room and trying to admit people as I talk, enabled me to start gaining these big vertical promotions. So it started back in the days when I was at the post office, and I went from being a kind of middle manager to founding and heading up a completely new division, a brand new division to lead and grow the post office brand, to change the perceptions of the post office brand. I was later at a flooring company, might be familiar to some of you here on the call, or one of you here on the call, where I joined again in a brand management role and was, after 3 months, given the opportunity to lead the global marketing function. And then at the university, in my last role, I went from being an admissions and marketing director to being the deputy CEO. Now, in each of those instances, I made those promotions happen for myself. They weren't offered to me. Did any of them have an interview process? None of them had a formal interview process, and I created those pathways for myself. And since opting out of corporate life and building my own business, what I strive to do is help other women put together the strategies to do that for themselves as well. And that's what I want to share some headlines of with you on the call today. How does that sound to everyone? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs up. Good stuff, good stuff. So I'm going to share with you some of the things you can piece together to create those kind of opportunities for yourself. A few requests of you then, and these are also the requests I'm going to ask you to kind of go with in order to go into the prize draw. This isn't me being too pernickety, it's how you can get the best out of today's session. So as I've requested before, if we can have cameras on, because it's difficult speaking into a void, and this is a participative session. The more you lean into it, the more you engage, the more you will get out of this session, the more value you will get. And it's also, it's nice, I'm not Netflix, it's nice to actually see real people and real faces. So if you are able to put your camera on, unless there's a really good reason why not, I would love it if you would put your cameras on, please. The other thing I'm going to ask is that you stay to the end. This is a kind of self-contained session and masterclass, and you will really only realize the value in it if you stick around to hear all of it. So I'm going to ask that you stay to the end. I'm going to ask that you be coachable. What do I mean by that? Well, if we were shopping for a wedding outfit for you and I presented you the purple fluffy jacket, to be coachable would be willing to put it on, even though in your head you're thinking, there is no way I'm putting on this jacket, it's terrible. To be coachable is to be willing to just put it on and look in the mirror and see what happens. So that's what I'm asking of you today. I'm going to share things with you that might feel stretching, that might feel uncomfortable, that might not totally conform to your existing beliefs and stories about your career and about your profession. So I'm going to ask you to be willing to try them on. And that's what I mean when I say be coachable. And given that this is a session ultimately about breaking through to leadership in some capacity. Hi, Karina, nice to see your face. I'm going to ask you to be here as a leader with your leadership energy. So what does that mean? Well, it means to be fully present and engaged with what we're talking about, to care for the assembled group and give kind of headspace and time to the collective group of people that we represent today, and to try and be focused on solutions, on the future, on both contributing and taking from this session. I am recording the session. I think all of you have had the nice description saying that this is recording. My intention is that I will share this session within some of my social media channels and with people that may be interested and be able to benefit from what I share and what you hear today. I would request that you, in the spirit of paying it forward, that you allow that. Obviously your faces are on screen, your names are attached to this. So I would request that in the spirit of paying it forward, you be okay with me sharing this. It's not going to be kind of broadcast to millions, but within the kind of groups of ambitious women, professionals that I support and deliver value to, it would be great if you were okay with that. However, if any of you, for any particular reason, feel uncomfortable with that sharing taking place, I'd ask that you drop me a note, victoria@thesuccessmyth.com afterwards, so that I can edit you out. But my request is, unless something really kind of challenging happens for you, is that you allow yourself to be included in this, because others can gain value from hearing your stories and your engagement in this session. Okay? My final request to you, hitting you with a lot of requests, I know. My final request is that you find something, at least one thing, one action that you can take away from today's session. Just one thing, because we are all exposed to a lot of information. You know, as professional people, we're bombarded, we're given lots of stuff, theories, information, knowledge that we can use. But transformation comes with action. There are many people, and I've been guilty of this myself actually, great at reading all the leadership books, great at kind of learning the theory and knowing all the things I'm supposed to be doing, and not actually doing it. Real impact comes with practice. So find something from today's session that you can take away and action or practice or have a conversation about, because that's a form of action, so that you lock it in, so you build a new neural pathway, so you move yourself forward and create a change for yourself, however small, and perhaps it might be quite large. Sorry, I'm just noticing a message here. Yes, Arlene, I can see you. Sorry, I've only just spotted your message. And thank you for your message, Anna. So those are my requests for the session. Everyone broadly okay with that? Ready to lean in? Ready to take some action? Get the breakthrough that you've been waiting for? Good. Let's make a start then. I have a question for you. And my suggestion is that you take a moment to jot down what comes up for you. And you're very welcome to put it in the chat if that works for you. You don't have to. And I will invite some sharing afterwards. But my question is, if today could be a real turning point for you in your career, what is the breakthrough that you would need to have? If today represented the turning point in your career, that door opening on something dramatically bigger, better, more aligned for you, what is the breakthrough that you would need to have? So I hear self-confidence and belief in my ability. And self-confidence is often at the crux of what holds us back. And I'm going to talk in that mindset tool I mentioned, I'm going to talk a little about that. Is anyone else willing to share what breakthrough they would need to have to unlock that big change in the career? Sujita, is that you trying to take yourself off mute so that you can share?
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to type, but letting go of any inhibitions that you have.
Inhibitions?
that you would have about yourself.
Okay, so similar in some respects to
the self-confidence.
Self-confidence.
Yeah.
And Sujita, what kind of inhibitions would you say show up for you in that professional environment?
Maybe subject matter expertise, lack of it.
Okay, so feeling like you don't know enough to break through to the next level.
That's right.
So on that topic, let me share something with you guys. And here comes a book recommendation as well. It's called How Women Rise. And the author is Marshall Goldsmith. It's co-authored by Sally Hagelson and Marshall Goldsmith. And in it, they write about 12 habits that women in particular carry with us in professional life. And one of those that hold us back. And one of those habits is an overvaluing of expertise. We think that to progress, we have to be the person with all the answers. We have to be the person that knows the most. It's not the case. And here is a specific reason why it's not the case. When you get to a certain level of leadership, you are no longer responsible for one function. So to give you an example, when I was responsible for marketing and admissions at the university, that was two functions. So I was able to have expertise in those areas. I'd spent my career working up through a marketing line. When I became Deputy Chief Executive, I took on HR, student services, IT. I did not have expertise in IT. When you get to the really senior roles, and this, you'll start to see shades of this wherever you are on the ladder, because that broadening occurs. You go from being an I-shaped leader to a T-shaped leader. As an I-shaped leader, you have a chance of having expertise in everything you lead. But once you make that breakthrough to a more broad leadership, a T-shaped leader, you cannot have deep expertise in all of those areas that you look after. So your job stops being about knowing the most and starts being about how you lead the people around you, how you unlock excellence in others, and about the questions you ask. So it stops being about having the best answers and starts being about having the best questions. Now, where that comes in your career is a very sort of individual thing. It depends on the nature of your role and the sector you're in and the organization you're in. But having it in your mind, that difference between having to know it all versus leading across a broader spectrum can be useful in overcoming that sense of I don't know enough to take the next step. And you know, you might have heard this, but another interesting quirk, because this, you know, this group, we're all women, right? And that's a specialist area of mine, helping women get to leadership. So men do not suffer that same constraint. You may have read that when men are applying for jobs, and I'm not a downer on men, I think men are fabulous, but when men apply for jobs, they will go for a job where they have 3 out of the 10 requirements of the job. Women won't go for a job unless they have 9 out of 10, and sometimes even 10 out of 10 on average. And I have a source for that somewhere, but I'm not going to dig it out and share it. We'll take it on trust. It's been researched. So we hold ourselves back. We're not willing to take the punt. And actually, it's okay to take the punt and to recognize that you don't have to have all the answers. What do you take from that, Sujita, for yourself?
I guess it's a very valid point, because sometimes, like, I try and push my boundaries and see if I can take on a challenge. There have been, I would say, more than 50% of the times I was able to cope up with what I thought I wouldn't be able to. But what you just mentioned, I think, kind of gives me the confidence to, the statistics puts it in perspective. I think it's completely right. So yeah, I think this is something for me to take away and work on it.
Good stuff. Now I'm just going to take a look at the comments here, because I know lots of you have put more in the comments. So self-confidence and belief in my ability. We've talked about a job offer that I didn't go looking for. Arlene, can you tell us a little bit more about that? If that's the breakthrough you would love to have, tell us more.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me okay. I don't spend my time going and looking for these opportunities. It's really interesting, as you said, Victoria, that you didn't look for any particular adverts for jobs. They were created by you. I don't know how to do that. So that would be one thing that would be, obviously I could do, but it wouldn't be my breakthrough. The breakthrough would be it being offered to me without me having to do that.
Yeah.
So it's that, yeah, I think I'll just carry on as I am unless somebody comes and offers me something. It's not a good place to be in, but it's where it currently lies. Okay. And probably partly because of that whole thing of, oh, I've only got 3 out of the 10, so I wouldn't apply. I'm kind of instead living the life of wait for someone to headhunt me, knowing I've got 9 out of the 10. It's lazy, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I get that. And there's something, I think, in that, Arlene, about if you're happy enough in your current role, that motivation to go through the effort of seeking the next thing is often not present until we feel sufficiently pained where we are, sufficiently frustrated or undervalued or under challenged. And again, where that threshold comes is different for different people. But interestingly, another one of the 12 habits mentioned in this book, and I see and hear this a lot as well with the women I work with, is I'm so good at what I do. Well, you know, I'm a smart person. I'm good at what I do. Why aren't people coming and offering me opportunities? You know, there's this sense that surely if they value me and I'm doing a great job, and you all will be doing a great job, you know, why is the sort of path not unfolding for me? And I think there is you know, if we're lucky, if we're in fabulous organizations with amazing HR functions that are all about talent development, you might be lucky enough to get that next step kind of thrust upon you unexpectedly. Or if you're very well networked in your sector, if you are a name, or if you do something with particular visibility, sometimes conversations bubble up that make those things happen. But for most of us, the sad reality is you could work for the next 20 years being amazing, delivering incredible value, and your employer may not offer you the opportunities because if they offer you the next step or additional responsibility, they have to pay you for it. And if you aren't, you know, if you're a quiet, hardworking, diligent sort, not signaling your intent and your ambition, they may not realize that you're ready for it or that you want it. So I think a key principle that is very helpful is to be clear in our own minds that we own our own professional path. Our employer does not own our professional path. And whether you choose to pursue that next step, different matter. It does take some energy and it takes some headspace, but being absolutely clear that you own it, and short of getting really lucky or being in the right place at the right time, even if you're brilliant, your employer is unlikely to come and offer you 10 grand and a job title change. You know, it's normally something that you have to go out and create for yourself, or see an opportunity and go through a formal selection process to land. So just being clear that we own it. We own it. It's rare for it to be gifted up. What do you think to that, Arlene?
I think I've already got my action that I'm taking away.
Okay, good stuff. And on the point of I don't know how to, I am going to cover some really specific stuff that will give you answers on how to. Okay, got a few latecomers coming in here. Hi, Paula. Hi, Paula. She can't hear me yet. She's not connected to audio. Paula, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So just very quickly to catch you up, I've asked everyone to reflect on, if today could be the career turning point for you, what breakthrough would you need to have for yourself? And we're just exploring some of what that opens up. So we've talked a bit about self-confidence. We've talked about how to create the path and being clear that you own it. No one's going to gift it to you unless you get really lucky. Continual self-belief as opposed to occasional, Megan. So we've talked a bit about the self-belief stuff. Again, I'm going to come on to a bit more detail on some mindset work there. And obviously we've worked together, so you know some of the tools that I share. A thing to remember is it is an ongoing practice, and staying with those practices is quite important, because like any habit, I've got a habit of the moment that's quite a good one, of my alarm is on the other side of the room, and when it goes off in the morning, I leap out of my bed into the cold, switch my alarm off, and don't get back into bed. A couple of mornings ago, I forgot to charge my phone in the room, so it was my husband's alarm that went off. So he turned the alarm off, and I didn't have to leap out of bed into the cold, and I stayed in bed for an extra half hour. And the following day, it was so much more difficult to do the leaping out of bed into the cold. That's months worth of the good habit nearly wiped out by one miss. So sometimes when we're having to sort of practice certain habits, connecting to certain parts of ourselves, there is a real importance to staying in the practice and reinforcing that neural pathway, whether it be confidence, owning our voice, remaining composed and calm in meetings that stress us out. These are the kinds of things that are a continual practice. Maria, what I might miss in communication with seniors, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Hi. Yeah, it's from my experience. I was working in my current position for 15 years, and a few weeks ago I quit. But before that, it appeared that there were some quite big gap in the communication between me and actually the owner of the company, because I was the next one down the line.
Yeah.
So I thought that everything's fine and we are clear about everything, but it appeared that there was some gap in the communication. So I realized that there is something that I just miss. So maybe it was something that he didn't tell me and I was supposed to know, or somehow to, I don't know, intuitively decide to do, but I didn't. So there are some signals probably that something is going on, and I have missed this signal. So it's all about that.
Yeah. Okay. So there's probably some detail and complexity to that situation that might warrant a separate conversation, but just as a kind of broad brush, in the spirit of my development and career progress is mine, not my employer's, not my boss's. Another really fabulous principle, and this takes a bit of courage, is to seek feedback with relative frequency, by which I mean maybe quarterly. Every 2, 3, 4 months, and be willing to take it on, because we might assume that if we are working away and no one's telling us we're doing anything wrong, that we're doing fine. Firstly, it's really nice to have that confirmed and to have it vocalized, and then when you do come to negotiating opportunities, you have something tangible to play back. You know, when I've asked for this feedback, you said I'm doing great, you know, and so the conversation goes on. But it also gives you early warning signals where things aren't quite right, or where you have missed something, which is very easily done in the day-to-day. And if you have a look on my website, thesuccessmyth.com, or on YouTube, Victoria Stakelum, I have a YouTube channel. I have another workshop recording that you might find useful. It's called Transforming Toxic Relationships. Now, I don't want to suggest that your relationship with your CEO is toxic, but within that, there is some useful information on how to receive feedback, particularly if it's feedback that's difficult or takes us by surprise, things we didn't know, that we're a bit taken aback by. So you might find some useful fodder in there, Maria. But if it's something that you would, if you have now left, but some of what occurred is still sort of on your mind and needs a bit of processing out, you're very welcome to book some time to talk that through. I'm just going to drop a link in the chat, and I will offer all of you an opportunity to have a conversation about your specific situations. But Maria, specifically, if there's anything there that you're still trying to figure out what happened, then by all means book some time. I'm very happy to help you process that out. I've got a lot of experience of interesting dynamics between senior people and the rest of us. Let's come back to the chat and see what else we've got in here. You're all doing lovely, putting your thoughts down here. Communication skills, willing to move out of comfort zone. Willing to move out of comfort zone is really well stated, Napur. I run a program to help women get promoted, and one of the first sessions, resources in the program speaks to that need, that willingness to stretch ourselves and to feel uncomfortable. Now, what I don't mean by that is working in a way that's not aligned to our values. In fact, I would advocate that to be successful in business, to have a successful career, you have to be working in alignment with what you believe in, because otherwise you block yourself, and you tend to block others actually unwittingly as well. So you need to be in alignment with your values, but we can sometimes get very comfortable in a working environment that's actually very uncomfortable. We learn to tolerate things simply by habit and familiarity, and to break out of that and empower ourselves to have more influence where we are, or to make the sometimes difficult decision to move on to somewhere where we are more valued or where we are in more alignment, can require us to take action that is unfamiliar and that scares us a little bit. And it's a bit like a rocket needing to leave an atmosphere. It takes a bit of extra effort, a bit of extra rocket fuel to get out of our comfort zone and into our stretch zone. But what happens with practice is what used to stretch us gets more comfortable. And I mentioned asking for feedback. That's probably a useful example. To go and ask your boss, what am I not doing so well? What would you love to see me do differently? I can feel uncomfortable. You know, we're inviting a criticism that might be difficult to take on. Once you've done it 3 times over, it won't be as difficult. It's a great practice. So even that's a really good example of something that feels uncomfortable, that through practice grows your comfort zone. So you grow with that comfort zone, and the things that you're scared of, or the things that stretch you, push out even further. So another great practice is doing things that feel uncomfortable, that stretch and challenge me. Does that make sense to everyone? Good stuff. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I'm mindful of time. Where are we? So I want to make sure I can cover the tips and tools. Joe, I've recently applied for posts that I felt were maybe a bit above me, but I wanted to have a go. I was proved right by not hearing anything back. Blame myself for not selling myself enough. So Joe, please book a call with me. I would love to help you see what you can do differently to make sure the next things open up for you, because going for roles that are kind of a stretch on where we are, oh, there's so much in it. And Paola, who is someone that I do work with, who's in the corner here, not on camera at the moment, but we've talked about in some of our sessions that principle of how to represent yourself for that next level up. is it about selling ourselves? It's not really about selling ourselves. I'd like to share the first tool with you, which I think might help Joe give you some insight into a distinction between selling myself versus bringing confidence energy that says I'm already ready for this. So this is the mindset tool that I've made reference to. Turn the paper over to the wrong side. So we tend to approach that ambition for a new role thinking in terms of what I want to have and what I need to do in order to have that. So I want to become a head of function, a director of something, for example. So that's what I want to have. I want to have that job title. I want to have that responsibility. I want to have more money because I've worked hard and I'm worth it. Those are the things I want to have. So then I think, right, what do I need to do? Tart up my CV, apply for jobs, maybe sell myself at that higher level. That's the kind of thought process we go through. And we think, right, I'm clear on what I want to have. So these are the things I'm going to do. And then I get to be that leader. I get to be that more senior person. So then I'll be able to show up differently and I'll feel more confident at that level. It's all the wrong way round. The first secret, and this is so powerful. I can't impress on you enough how powerful this is to start from how do I get to be if I am that leader? If I was already in this job at this level, how would I be? And what kind of things would I do? Because we do this thing of applying for a job, kind of thinking it's over there. The next level up in my career is over there. I've got to strive towards it. When we look to that future as if we already had everything we need, as if we already are that next level up, we already are that leader, the things we do are often different. They come from a different place. They show up from a different energy. And we are far more likely to have the outcome we want based on coming from that place of already being it. So, for example, people often, when they do manage to secure a promotion, say, oh, I feel able to speak out in the meetings now. Now that I'm a director, I feel like it's okay to speak out. And often it's been a real struggle to get there, or a painful recruitment process or whatever. But in reality, it's not like overnight their opinions had more substance, or they gained 10 years of experience that they didn't have the day before. It's just words on a page. It's just a job title. You are the same person. So coming from the place of already being where you want to be shifts your energy dramatically. And that can be felt by your interview panel, by your boss, by your colleagues. I like to call it leadership energy. Acting from a place as if you already had the thing you wanted, acting from a place that you already were, that leader, that esteemed figure that you aspire to be, completely shifts how you show up. Who would like to share what they are getting from that? Any insights or observations that emerge?
Yeah, hi. I think that's a wonderful thought, because I am going through that, what you just explained. Like, I am expecting a promotion next year, but right now when I go into meetings, I don't feel myself having that confidence of speaking up, because I think I'm not in that position. So when what you mentioned is right. I think if I start doing that, then people will start looking at me in that position from now itself. So that's a great thought.
Good. Thank you for sharing that, Nepal. Would anyone else like to share what they are taking from that trick for themselves? Bonnie, makes you think about leadership as a way of being, not a title or position. I think that's a really valuable point. And of course, there is lots of debate about, you know, everyone can be a leader irrespective of title and position. And I think that's right. And the application of this can be so much more specific and individual. You know, I'm looking at that role there. How will I show up when I'm in that role? If I bring that to myself now, when I seek to negotiate that role, or I'm invited to apply for it, or however, you know, that path is created or you create it, people are already seeing me in the energy of that role, in the confidence of that role, and decision making as if I were already there. Does that make sense? So it works at kind of macro and really specific level. Any other insights? Megan?
I've done this, not in terms of getting a promotion, but I worked with Vicky earlier in the year as well. And the other thing I throw in, it almost becomes like whatever the opposite of a vicious circle is, a very positive circle, in that you embody it and you go in, and whether it's a meeting or a phone call or just doing whatever, and you might feel a bit imposterish, but you know, if you get through it and you bring that energy, people do respond. They respond differently. Like, I'm surrounded by men, probably most of us are, the similar roles, and always felt like I was sort of doing that. Please, may I? Could I possibly? And just kind of went in going, no, this is me. I'm here. I've earned my place. And it not only did it change that, it changed the way I perceive people deal with me, but also that then a big part I learned was that I was telling myself a story half the time. And I was telling myself that I wasn't as good or wasn't as important or didn't have as much to say. And it just becomes completely cyclical, because you do, and you believe in it and you show up and you're like, I am the director, I am the head of. Not like that, clearly, but you have a conversation on a level, and that person treats you on a level. And obviously, initially, you're so surprised that you don't quite know how to carry on. But then when you do, it just continues. And then the next time you meet with those people or have a conversation with those people, you remember what it was like last time, and you bring it again. And suddenly, and it's an immediate step change. It's not even one of those things that, you know, gradually, bit by bit, except for remembering to do it, which is my problem. But it is immediate. And I remember coming off a call with somebody, and I'd been dreading the call and I hated dealing with them, and it was in my calendar and I just had to do it. And I just came off the call and I was bouncing for like hours, just having a little private celebration. And actually all I did was do my job and do what I'm meant to do, but I brought a different energy to it. And it's honestly, it's just revolutionary. That's what I'd say.
Well, that's great feedback. Thanks, Megan. And a couple of things strike me in what you said. There's something visual about what you described that, for those of you that have a more visual preference, may be helpful, which is, I know, Megan, we talked about that, like you were almost picturing looking up when you entered that group, and actually just visualizing yourself kind of getting on a level with people shifted a lot, I think, in the energy. So that can also be a useful tool. It's really simple. But if you are heading into, whether it's a negotiation or a meeting or any environment where you'd love to show up bigger, more empowered, taking the time to notice the picture in your head and how you might adjust it can be really helpful. The other thing I really want to draw out from what you said, Megan, is how instant the impact of this approach is. And, you know, I make a bold claim that I can help someone get promoted within 3 months. These tools shift the way you are perceived very quickly in a single moment. And you talked about that virtuous cycle that is created. It's real. A lot of my work is around energy, and the formal term might be executive presence and how we show up. But really, it's about that energy that we all emanate. And that is created a lot by the things we think and the emotions we carry, and how we hold ourselves. So some of what we're talking about here is about, and let me be clear, it's not fake it till you make it. It's about connecting with the part of yourself that is kind of already in that place. You have everything you need. We all have everything we need. We're not talking about jumping 4 levels up in our career. We're talking about the next step. You've got everything you need. Really knowing that and connecting with the part of yourself that believes that is what makes that difference. So that's really helpful. Thank you, Megan. Let me go on and talk about the next tool then. So we've talked about the mindset, coming at this, knowing you're already there, and the major impact that has on how you are perceived, how you show up, your gravitas, your confidence. The next tool I want to share is a strategy. And Arlene, this speaks more to what you said. How? What's the how here? How do I create a path? Now, this strategy is most effective in organizations that are a little more dynamic, medium-sized rather than massive corporations, although my first successful application of this strategy was in a massive corporation. It was in the post office, which is huge. You know, it was, maybe still is, like the 3rd biggest employer in the UK, probably. Maybe that's changed now. So this can work in those kind of environments as well. And again, this speaks to this principle of you own your career and you know your skills and capabilities best, better than anyone, if you can own them. This strategy, or this strategic approach, it uses a Venn diagram, right? One circle is what can I see my organization needs? And that might be a problem I can see that isn't getting solved, or an opportunity or ambition that this organization has, or that my boss has, or that the CEO has. The other Venn diagram is my capability and my skills and my experience, and maybe even my potential and passion. The opportunity lies at the overlap between those two things. So when we are looking for opportunities, when we are ready to create an opportunity for ourselves, the trick is to identify a known problem or opportunity in an organization, and then to marry that to skills or capabilities that you have, or your potential and passion to solve that problem or to unlock that opportunity. And I say that because as women, we tend to overvalue expertise. They've got this problem. I really believe I could solve it, but I haven't actually got any proof that I could solve it. I haven't got the expertise yet. Don't worry about it. If you've got passion and energy, and you can see how that problem could be solved, therein lies an opportunity. So to give you an example, when I was at the post office back in the day, there was a new advertising campaign running. This goes back many years, right? There was an ad campaign running that was all predicated on the lovely, friendly, homely post office that you know and love. It had Bungle the Bear in it. It had Joan Collins going and picking up her pension in the post office, and a postmaster talking about the slightly ratty carpets. Some of you might remember the campaign. It goes back a long way. At the same time that that campaign was being developed and launched, A different bit of the post office was moving aggressively into financial services. So they were redesigning branches to look like banks, sharp, slick, modern. Completely different team to the team over here launching this advertising that was all about your friendly, lovely, tatty old post office that you know and love. And I could see the disjoint. I could see there was a problem. I can't remember why I had visibility of both of these initiatives. It was something to do with the role I was in at the time. But I went to the director of the function and said, here is a problem. These things are completely different, not speaking to one another. There's no overarching understanding of what we are trying to achieve here. And there's no one responsible for making sure that's glued together. I can do that. I'm not a brand person, but I've got my marketing quals. You know, I'm passionate about it, and it speaks to my skills of communicating and networking and bringing people together and being a bit of a dogged troubleshooter when necessary. I think we need a brand team, and I would like to lead that brand team. And he said, I recognize the problem, go and make it happen. And lo and behold, I was newly appointed to a role that hadn't existed before. And that happened to me on 2 subsequent occasions in my career. So actually, no, the second role where I got the big vertical, there had been a person in the role, but I still positioned the problem as something I was uniquely placed to solve. And then in the case of the university, the role didn't exist. And once again, I said, look, there are these problems over here. I have a skill set to solve them. But in order to do that, I need to be given the authority to play in that space and to add value over there. And it was pretty much a go and make it happen again. So this thinking of what do they need? What can I truly throw myself at? Is a strategic model for creating your next career step. And the trick to it really is to make sure you get agreement to the problem or the opportunity first. So when you say, I've noticed that, you know, left and right hand aren't speaking, or there is this gap in our communication, or this thing over here isn't being delivered very effectively, or this process doesn't work, you want to get the nods. Yeah, we recognize that that's a problem before you pitch yourself into it. Because what you might get is, no, that's not a problem, we're not bothered. And then you need to go looking for something else, or you know, something that your decision makers are more aligned to. So gaining agreement that yes, this is something we're struggling with, or yes, there is a gap here, and then positioning yourself into it is the strategy. I can see this clearly where I work, but I suspect they'll send me away to deal with it without any job change money. Yeah, okay, I'm going to come on to that, Arlene. I'm going to come on to it. And there is a bit of a sequence to how you approach these things. But that's in the skill set piece that I'm going to come on to. And Arlene, feel free to book a call, because I can certainly help go in a bit more detail on this with you and prep you for it. There is an approach and a sequence to how to tackle this, to land it. And on that point, yeah, they'll give me the additional responsibility, but they won't give me any more money, because that's a classic. And here's the thing, that can only happen to us with our consent. Mic drop moment, you have a choice. You are all talented, experienced, bright women. You do not have to stay in the role you are in. You do not have to stay in the organization you are in. You have a choice. Now, it may be very comfortable where you are. We talked about comfort, maybe comfortably uncomfortable. And it takes courage to really face into that choice and know that you can take your considerable talent and energy and expertise elsewhere. It takes courage to do that. But knowing that you are willing to do that, if your trade with your employer is not a fair and balanced one, is really important. Our jobs are they're a transaction, right? It's hard not to give your heart and soul if you love your job, if you're passionate about your work, and many of us are. But at the end of the day, it's a transaction. If you become a cost that your employer does not recognize the value in, they'll let you go. They might feel guilty about it, but if they have to make the numbers work and you're part of the collateral damage, that'll happen. They don't owe you anything, and you don't owe them anything either. Now, that's a kind of hard-nosed way of looking at it, right? And we often have great relationships with our boss, with our employer. And I don't mean to say that that's the only lens to have on this. But you trade 40 or maybe 50 or 60, or maybe if you're lucky, 20 or 30 of your hours and your energy and your talent each day, each week, each month, each year. You trade that for a salary, for some reasonable working conditions, hopefully, some respect, some challenge, but it is a trade. And what often happens is over time, we're getting a worse deal in that trade, but it's comfortable and we're used to it. And we make excuses for them and we accept that, yeah, you know, there are these things in my way. And we accept it. But make no mistake, you don't have to accept it. You can demonstrate that you're more valuable than that, or you can know what your walkaway point is. You can recognize that your current employer, who has got comfortable in that partnership just like you have, may not recognize your value at that different level, but your next employer will. So knowing that you have choice, you don't have to execute that choice. You don't have to take your skills elsewhere, but being really clear that this is a choice you are making is actually really empowering, because you get to decide, do you know what? It is a pain in the backside, but it is comfortable, and perhaps they have great healthcare benefits, or perhaps I enjoy the travel that comes from it, you know, whatever it might be. So I'm going to tolerate it. It's okay. The balance isn't so out of whack that it's a problem for me. But if it does become a problem for you, recognizing that you have a choice means you get to decide to change that. I can see lots of thoughtful faces on the concept of the choice. Would anyone like to share what comes up for them when I put it out there that you may be complicit in this, or it's something you choose? Jo.
Hi, yeah. As you were talking, it just made me think about the situation that I'm currently in at work. So I put my name forward towards the end of last academic year for a post, and it was to support the subject leader, so it was almost like a deputy type post. There was no money attached to it. I went for it only because I thought I'm going to show willing. I want to show that I feel that I can do this job. Again, I didn't get that post, but they did offer me kind of a sub job role as part of that. So like student experience and student community, and like looking after that, which I think is really important for our students, to feel that they're part of something, not just the university, but a subject area. And within that subject area, there are lots of different courses, and we're all one within that. But there's no extra money. I'm expected to do that role on top of everything else that I'm doing, my teaching, my marking, my planning. There are additional meetings. There's a newsletter. There's all different things that I'm expected to do. And I said yes, because I thought it might help me progress, because I was made to feel that I didn't have the knowledge that you said is not necessarily important, the knowledge to fulfill that role. And so what you've just said, well, in fact, everything that you've said has been making me think, I think I've been a bit of a fool here.
Well, Jo, you've been really human, not a bit of a fool. And, you know, society does train us to, you know, be nice girls and take what we're given and smile and nod and be compliant, and it often doesn't serve us. Let me ask you this, Jo, just going back to that first tool around, if I knew I was already everything I need to function at that level, how do you think you might have done things differently?
I would have been more confident. I think that's the thing that holds me back, is my self-confidence and my self-esteem, because I've constantly been knocked back. So I think, well, obviously I haven't got what they're looking for, but I think deep down I must know that I have, because I keep trying. So I think that would be a really useful tool for me. So like one of those jobs that I've applied for a few weeks ago, and I never heard back from them, they've re-advertised. So they haven't found who they were looking for. And so I'm thinking, I know I could do that. So do I try again? I don't know. Or does that look desperate? I'm not desperate, but I just think I'd like to make a point of you need to see what I can do. I don't know.
So, Jo, I have an invitation for you, and it's one that you do not have to take up, but mull it over. You can apply for the job again, or you can get right outside of your comfort zone and contact them directly and ask for feedback.
Yeah, I'd had thought about that, and I've been umming and ahhing for the last few days. I don't know. I don't know if I can do it.
What would
but I think it's the only way, isn't it? Well, not the only way, but yeah, it makes me more no, I don't know, noticed, maybe.
Here's the thing. Arlene is saying, do it, Jo. Like, yes, take the action. Here's the thing. You know you have the capability to do the job. If you reach out to them for feedback, you may get the outcome you want. If you don't, you will get the learning that you need. And that is the great thing about committed, uncomfortable action.
Yeah.
We get the outcome we want, or we get learning that we need, or that is valuable to us. And then you get to learn, you know, well, how come I've got these skills and they're not seeing that I've got these skills? Maybe it's the way you're putting them across.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that lack of confidence was somehow visible or tangible in your application. Or maybe they missed a trick. Who knows? That's the thing. You just don't know. So asking for feedback and you know, talking to Jo, but for all of you, anytime you face rejection professionally, ask for feedback. And it's uncomfortable. And you might hear stuff you don't want to hear. And download the replay of the toxic relationships one. And I think I might have also put a snippet on how to receive feedback, actually, which is 15 minutes rather than an hour long. But there's always something in there for us. It might be something that takes a bit of guts to really look squarely at. Or it might be that it tells us more about them. And my spiel on the interview process and the recruitment process and being a professional person is when we don't get the outcome we want, we often think it's because I wasn't good enough for the job. It's never that. I mean, I've hired hundreds of people over the years. It's never about whether they're good enough. It's about whether they're the right fit. And look, this is a little bit off topic, but I'm going to share it anyway, because I think it's really valuable and we've got time just. It's about fit, not about whether someone's good enough. So when we are interviewing for something or applying for a job or negotiating an entry into something, a role, a new organization, who else sort of puts their professional persona on and shows up how they think they need to show up and sort of adopts a version of something? Has anyone else ever done that? Smartest suits, yeah, gonna put my high heels on even though I look like a giraffe in them, you know, I'm gonna be someone that I think they want. You can't assess fit. If it's not you walking through the door, you can't assess fit. And I'm using those words intentionally. You can't assess fit. Because if you are presenting a version of yourself rather than your real self, if you get hired, problems and disappointments await for someone further down the line when they realize that that's not actually you and you wear flat shoes the whole time and, you know, like a giggle and are not terribly poker faced. So there's a big risk that you get hired, but you actually weren't quite right because you didn't bring your, and it's exhausting trying to pretend to be that other person the whole time. Or you might get the lucky escape of not getting hired, having been yourself entirely because you weren't a good fit, not because you weren't good enough, but because your energy wasn't quite right for what they wanted. But because, coming right back to what Megan said earlier about we look up at things, because we want the job, we're sort of looking at it as a thing up here that we have to strive to be good enough for. When you bring it down here and realize this is a conversation between me, an adult, and this other adult or group of adults to decide whether my unique combination of personality, skills, expertise is right for their particular needs and culture and organization. Once you see it like that, it takes a lot of pressure off, really takes a lot of pressure off. And then you can be committed to bringing your best self and getting a good result. But you don't have to be attached to it, because with attachment comes fear. I really want this. That's hard to be at our best when we're kind of clinging to a particular outcome. But if we're committed to that outcome, we're going to take the steps, you know, we're going to show up connected to our best self and get the outcome that's right. It won't always be the outcome we wanted. But if we bring ourselves connected to our most empowered, confident selves, and that there's a practice in that, we'll get the right outcome. Does that make sense, Joe? Is it useful?
Yeah, it does make sense. It's really helpful. Thank you.
Good. Just going to have a look at the note here. Cassie, it's all about personal fit. I had an interview with one director and he loved me but needed me to meet with the other director who didn't quite like me as much. You were in another room when they discussed you, and you're going to have to finish the rest with words because your text has cut off and I'm dying to hear the end of the story. So one loved you, the other one, and they were discussing you in another room. Cassie, how does the story end? Can you share?
Story ended. I didn't get the job, but I know the lady that did, and the director owner that didn't quite gel with me. He was a philanderer, let's say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
not good.
So I'm glad I didn't get that job in the end.
Lucky escape.
It is, but Joe, honestly, I would definitely ask for feedback. 100% ask for feedback.
There's a lot of love in the room for asking for that feedback, Joe.
Bill, thank you.
There's your big action to come out of the session. But yes, all about personal fit. Right, so we're off topic, so I want to get back on topic and give you the final of the 3 tips. And by the way, I have a lot more of this kind of material where this stuff came from. So we've talked about mindset, not what do I want to have, what do I need to do to get there so that I get to be that thing, but rather who do I get to be in order to take those committed actions that enable me to have the outcome I want. Who do I get to be? Knowing I already have everything I need within me and really connecting to that confidently. Thank you, Anu, for sharing your book, My Breakthrough Wish, Perhaps Missed Above. If we have time, I'd love to come on and hear more about that. So I'm just going to deliver this last tool. So just recapping, mindset, coming at it from already being enough. Strategy, what I have to offer overlaid with things I can see that this organization needs, and finding that sweet spot in the middle. And there's a bit more depth to how to approach that conversation. And I would really encourage any of you who are in this space right now and would like to go a bit deeper to use the link to book a call with me, because I would love to help you frame that for yourself. The third piece is really about the skills to negotiate that. So Arlene, you mentioned earlier, yeah, great, they'll say yes, go make it happen, but they won't actually pay me for it. That's a classic one, and can only happen if you let them get away with it. Remember, you have a choice. But here's the third tool. So this is something I developed myself from the various years of experience I have in the hiring seat. So this particular bit of what I want to share is less about my experience striving for roles and more about my experience as a business leader and what I know your decision makers are thinking about, because I've been one of them. So I call it the 4 pillars of value. Some of you that have worked with me, this might be familiar to. When you are creating your next career step by identifying what you can offer and stacking it against what they need, there are 4 pillars of value which are like the love letter to the average hiring decision maker. And again, there's a slight nuance to this. It's at a certain level that this stuff becomes significant, but it's powerful stuff. So this is simple, right? You've identified an opportunity. You're saying you can fill that opportunity for me. Tell me how it's going to make me money or save me money or avoid risk for me or deliver something that I am currently very keen to get delivered or struggling to deliver. That might be a senior person pet project that you've got wind of, or it might be something in the strategy, and those are often available, you know, on websites, in company documentation, that you can see is not really moving. So when you construct this opportunity space for yourself, you need to demonstrate why it is in their interests to appoint you to it. So the first 2 pillars, it's going to make money or it's going to save money. It's business. Whether you like it or not, money talks. If you can demonstrate how you taking this responsibility on is going to unlock additional revenues or savings for your organization, you can actually construct a really clear case for your own share in that benefit. So, and by the way, sometimes this line isn't a really direct one. So for example, in the education sector, where I know there's a few people that have been involved or are involved in that sector, you think about something like student experience, which is quite a soft concept. If the thing you are suggesting you do is about enhancing student experience, how do you draw a line from that back to revenue? You think in terms of just one additional retained student equals £9,000 a year. Just one student sufficiently impacted by this for it to make a difference is worth £9,000. Imagine if I did 10 students, that's 90 grand. So for you to ask for a 5 grand pay rise or a 10 grand pay rise when they're going to make 90 grand, do you see, it's about finding these ways to draw lines. So make money is often one of the more direct and straightforward. Save money is usually about efficiencies, cost efficiencies, time efficiencies. Sometimes it's about structure. We've had a conversation recently, Paola, you and I, about shifting structural sands and about how you positioning yourself for a particular role could save the salary of someone leaving, that creates an opportunity for you, haven't we? So it can be about, by me taking on this responsibility, that thing would no longer need to be separate, so there could be a saving there. Or it could be, by me improving this process, I can save X number of man hours per process run, per student, per customer. And then you can take an average salary and cost the hours that it saves and find your path back that way. Or it could be, by me renegotiating these supplier contracts, you know, I can save the organization. I once renegotiated, really early days in my career, I renegotiated an insight company contract and saved my organization 125 grand a year. This was before I'd figured all this stuff out. I didn't get a cut of that. I got a pat on the back. Well done, that's nice. And now I'm thinking, God, I should have been in for a good slug of that. That was a big saving on their part. So notice opportunities where, in the course of the work you do, or the course of the work you could do, you can draw a line back to a saving. So that's make money and save money. Avoid risk. This is really key. It's a softer pillar, if you like, in that it's about the what may happen. And key areas of risk are regulation and reputation. Sorry, I'm just checking. Yeah, regulation and reputation. So by me doing X, I mitigate the risk of Y happening. If Y were to happen, you know, reputational disaster, massive fines from whatever regulatory body, consumer protection body, GDPR, police, you know, it's that kind of thing. So the risk piece is about identifying the risk cost should something go wrong, and identifying the way in which your involvement can reduce the likelihood of those things going wrong. And for reputational risk, just bear in mind that that might affect an individual as well as an organization. So if anyone within your organization has a personal profile associated with the organization, they are likely to be particularly sensitive to reputational risk. So have a think about that as well. And then pet project strategic goal. This is a little bit like what they need versus what I have. This is about, if you can see that the CEO has a bugbear about something, or the marketing director really wants a certain project to get off the ground and it's just not happening. If you've got the energy and passion and capability to make that happen, that's a great pitch area as well. It takes a more emotional line. And for that pillar to be effective, it's really helpful to be pitching yourself or negotiating directly with the person whose pet project or desire it is, because they're the person that's got emotional skin in the game for seeing this happen. So if you come along and say, I can solve this, I need you to give me X. I need to be relieved of these responsibilities. I will focus wholly on this. The value to the organization, I believe, is X. So if you can get more than one of the 4 pillars, you're golden. If you can make a bit of money and deliver a pet project, if you can save a bit of money and avoid some risk, or any combination thereof, that is a powerful approach to make to your organization. So those are your 3 tips: mindset, skill set, strategy. Would anyone like to share any particular aha moments or takeouts from what they have heard?
Hi, Vicky, it's me, Paola.
Hello.
Hi. Well, obviously, as you mentioned, you know, we've talked about these things. So, you know, that's been really helpful. But I guess that, unlike someone else that spoke earlier, for me, it's been being mindful you know, and actually taking that deep breath and, you know, thinking before I say something that might be taken, although it's the right thing to say, but it might be taken as an attack or as a criticism instead of, you know, constructive feedback. So I'm definitely working on that at the moment. And I think it is making like a small difference, you know, not just being so bang. But yeah, I think all of this stuff is really, really helpful. And yeah, and although, you know, feedback is important, however, you don't always get it, even if you ask for it. Most so when you go through recruiters, I think. So if it's a good recruiter, you will get potential feedback, but in most cases you don't. Or as I think Joe said, that you put an application in and you don't even hear a no, so you don't really know what happened. And if that happens too often, it can become demoralizing and start losing confidence in yourself. So how do you actually manage that if that's a situation that, you know, happens constantly for on a set period of time?
Yeah. So a couple of things in there. So yeah, if you're putting in applications in any kind of volume, I'm going to put to you that you may not be as focused on fit as you could be. So I get that at more kind of frontline or high volume roles, it is a bit of a numbers game. But at the kind of levels you guys are at, it's very much about fit and individual energy and skills and organizational kind of need and culture. If you get to interview and you don't get feedback, ask for it. And if you still don't get it, it was a lucky escape. Because any organization that takes your time, takes an hour and a half of your actual time, not to mention all the additional effort and energy you've put into an application, and then can't give you in return some constructive feedback on why you weren't right for the role, is not a good egg. Simple as that. Not good culture, doesn't value people and their development, doesn't respect the transaction. Unless they come back with something genuinely apologetic saying we're unable to for these reasons. You know, we interviewed 100 people. Not likely. If you got to an interview and gave them your time, they ought to give you that 10 minutes back. If you're putting in a lot of applications and not getting a lot back, you may not be tailoring your applications appropriately. You're probably playing a high volume, low tailored game, and that is not really an effective strategy. The minute you get beyond kind of frontline administrative roles, it's not an effective strategy. And again, thinking about that mindset piece we talked about, if you knew you had everything you needed, would you be playing that high volume game? Or would you be thinking, I'm going to wait and engage with people that are absolutely a great fit for me, a great next step, that are going to really value what I have to offer and see me as an individual? So look, there's more to this, but that's what I would say on that, is if you're getting a lot of rejections on paper, your targeting strategy for the roles you're going for is perhaps not a great one. That's something that I'm happy to chat through with any of you that want to. If you're getting to first interview, push for feedback. It may not be forthcoming. You may actually have to go and ask for it. And that's a great thing to do. That's a great thing to do. So look, we're at the end of our time. Hands up who's found this useful and valuable today. Good stuff. And hands up who would love the opportunity to go deeper on their own specific situation and get a bit of a tailored plan for how to tackle that in 2022. Okay, so those of you that still have your hand up, go ahead into the Calendly link. I've got a few slots this side of Christmas. Book yourself an hour. It is my gift to you to spend a bit of time digging into what's happening with you and helping you construct a clear-headed strategy for what you will need to do to make 2022 the year that it happens for you. And when I say 2022, I mean the first quarter of 2022, because as Megan demonstrated, the shift happens really quickly for people. So thank you again for being here. Sorry, Anu, that we didn't get a chance to talk about your book. Perhaps you can book a call and we can talk about it offline. That would be really great. Thank you.
Sure, we'll do that.
Good stuff. And I wish you all the very best of luck. Please book a call, even if we've already worked together, even if you know me already. I am very happy to give it that time and hear about what you are trying to create in your career and support you to create that. And look, the women that have that call with me, whether they go on to be clients or not, often experience dramatic changes within weeks and at the outside months. 30% pay rises, you know, big shifts in responsibility. It happens very quickly when you put this stuff into practice. So please go ahead and book some time. And thank you very much all for being here. It was lovely to meet those of you I haven't met and lovely to see those of you that I haven't seen in a while. Take care of yourselves. Have a lovely Christmas. And thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, I leave.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.